play. Oh. We're over at.
I remember when you guys were in town. I think so. The one that's just right in town center. Unless you're moving. Okay. Yeah.
Hello. We're going to get started in about a minute or two, so if anybody needs to run to the restroom or get set, now's the time. Can you hear me on this? Oh, okay. Too loud? Too much? Now it's good.
Sharing this.
I think so.
He's always sitting next to you. Talk to Ann.
Good, thanks. Yeah, thank you guys. It's a great turnout.
No, there isn't.
It's going to be great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Anyway, that is not representative of the big stuff. Playing the speed makes it trying to put that music.
Beryl, is your phone off?
It's on vibrate, and it's in my purse.
Good for you.
Last one, thank you for asking. No problem.
I'm so excited. Get this over. This is it. We've had 5, 6. This is the 6th one. We've had 3 televised. And
Somebody sneaks one in.
yeah,
We've had as many as 10 or 12.
in the past, I know. But only 9 candidates, not.
This one's a little tricky because you always had something, a date you were leading up to now, and $3,000.
All right, we're getting set to go. Can you hear me? You can't hear me. Better. I need to bend over and do it like this. Or move this up. My MC Media, we good to go? All right, thank you. Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Great to be here. Thank you so much for being here tonight for the King Farm Candidate Forum. It's especially meaningful that you're all here tonight, and it was very nice of Major League Baseball to hold off on that first pitch until we can all get there in front of. I am your moderator. My name is Mark Silverstein, and we are honored to be joined tonight by both mayoral candidates and by so many of the candidates for Rockville City Council. Thank you. I'm told this is the last, so we saved the best for last. Thank you for doing that. Quick summary of the rules. I'm going to run through this very quickly. This is a good chance for you all to check your phones and your email and post on Facebook. But these are the rules. I'm going to be asking questions that have been submitted by residents and vetted by the King Farm Candidate Forum Committee. And thank you to the committee for all the hard work they did setting this up. I can say right now it's already a success. So great job. There's going to be approximately 1 hour for questions, and candidates are going to confine their answers to 45 seconds. Exactly right. And you can see our timekeeper there. She's a strict one. Nancy Paul, show them your signs. She's going to hold up a yellow card for 15 seconds left, and then the red card to end your answers. We ask that you finish your sentences very quickly so we can move on to the next question. There's going to be a closing statement from each candidate for up to 1 minute. You don't have to use the whole minute if you said what you need to say. During the debate, we're going to have people circulating and taking questions. They're going to be submitted by real time to by the audience. A member of the candidate committee is going to review the questions, and we will try to include some of your questions as well. As you can see, we have the mayoral candidates side by side, Bridget Newton and Virginia Onley, and the council candidates all arranged alphabetically. I'm going to ask, also, this is being live streamed by My MC Media, so if you feel like sharing it, go ahead. It's on your YouTube page, is that correct? Yeah. All right, so check out their YouTube page. We're also going to be posting it to kingfarm.org. This is a good time now that you've checked your email and you checked your social media. Please silence your phones and hold your applause until the end so we can make that first pitch. Our first question goes to our mayoral candidates. We're going to start with Bridget Newton, then Virginia Onley. How do you propose to use the King Farm farmstead, and what impacts would it have on the community garden, which is made up mostly of King farmers? And how would you mitigate those impacts on the garden and on increased traffic here in King Farm?
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for the question. I think that there have been 2 task forces that have already come up with a lot of ideas. The best ones, I believe, are those that bring people together to do great things, enjoy, celebrate the city of Rockville, definitely keep the community gardens in some fashion, whether they're where they are now or they get moved. I would love to see us partner with the property owner of King Farm Pontiac. He is related to the King family. His name is Aschenbach, but they would like to redevelop their, thank you. They would like to redevelop their property, and I think if we work together in a mixed-use way with them, letting them do the mixed use, we could get the parking garage so that we didn't have parking impact the King Farm community. I love the idea of a year-round farmers market. We could use the barns for inside things with art and other things that could be for sale, and just a place for people to come on the weekends and during the week to do things that we like to do together. Maybe a beer garden, if that met with the community's needs. Sorry, thank you.
Thank you. One of the things I think we need is more community space on that piece of property. We had a proposal, unfortunately, it did not go forward, that it was going to be a public-private partnership. An individual came forward and had some really nice plans, but we didn't agree that as a governing body that it should go forward. As far as the gardens, I think they should stay exactly as they are. We should never get rid of our community gardens because that's really important. Traffic, we need to make sure that we work with the community and the neighboring property so that we get a handle on traffic. We certainly don't want a lot of traffic and a lot of lights invading people who live here and who want the peace, but also want a gathering space for King Farm. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, this one is for all the council members, and we're going to start in reverse order with Susan Pittman. And we're going to do that because I believe that Monique always gets to ask the first question. Well, as you know, a development similar to King Farm Town Center is being built along Shady Grove Road, along the edges of King Farm. How would you avoid the problems experienced by the Rockville Town Center in this new development, and what lessons would you apply, and how can you help King Farm Village Center businesses in that new environment? And if you don't mind, if each of you just say hello and introduce yourself by name, we won't count that in for the first 2 or 3 seconds.
Okay, hello, I'm Susan Pittman. For the development, I think it needs to be planned very carefully. Know what you want, know what your needs are, know what your aspirations are, and don't let up on that. The City Council is here to support you and get the businesses that you need, help with traffic problems, and work with Ready to make sure that the businesses remain viable. I think, too, you've got to be careful about competition. One thing we're looking at with Pike and Rose and Rio and Town Center is that we need to be careful that there's not too much overlap and not too much competition. There's a lot of variety, so everyone is successful. Thank you.
Mark Brashela. I really have no worries about the new development on Shady Grove for the following reason. It is just going to be so open to Shady Grove Road. I think it's going to be another Falls Grove Village, which is extraordinarily successful. If I'm going to have any worries at all, I'm going to worry about the King Farm Village, because I think the new development on Shady Grove Road is just going to suck the prosperity out of King Farm Village. And that's where your worry is. The thing about Falls Grove Village, why is it so successful? It's just right there on Shady Grove Road. People see it as they drive by. They see what's on offer. That parking lot is always full, and the Shady Grove development is going to be the same way. Thank you.
My name is David Miles. Thank you for your time. In terms of the planned development at Shady Grove Road, I think it should meet 3 criteria. One, that it should have enough density in terms of housing there to support whatever businesses will be coming in. 2, that there's an emphasis on walkability. That's a lesson we learned, both of those lessons we're learning from Town Center at the current moment, making sure that, for pedestrians, for people who are differently abled as well. And then finally, making sure that they have the services that the community wants and can benefit from, speaking toward the demographics of whomever's going to live there. That's pretty much all I have. Thank you.
I'm Brigida Mollican, and I was on the Planning Commission when this King Farm plan development was proposed and approved, and it has a large public process where everyone gets to present their issues, the staff gives the information, the applicant gives information. I believe that this project, as Mark said, could be another success. This King Farm and Falls Groves have been very successful, and as far as the businesses are concerned, that is not the government's problem to solve. It's actually the developer, and they have to follow the traffic mitigation, so I believe the process will work just as they have with other projects here in Rockville. Thank you.
My name is Don Masters. Like any development, it needs to fit with the community. I would tend to agree with most of what has already been said, so I won't repeat it. I think there needs to be integrated public transit so people can get back and forth either to the metro or to town center or wherever they need to go. I think that's the thing that's been lacking in some of these developments, is they just develop it and don't put in what's needed in this modern environment. So that's pretty much all I have to say. Just keep yourself involved in as the project moves on.
Hi, my name is Charles Littlefield, City Council candidate. So with respect to the development on Shady Grove, I'm currently on the Planning Commission, and I've been on the Planning Commission since 2013. One lesson we're learning, specifically because of Rockville Town Center, is that we are overbuilt with retail. And the reason for that is we've been, for many couple decades now promoting mixed use. And mixed use is good, we still want that, but we need to rethink it in certain areas and bring back some more residential only, because otherwise we're just not going to be able to support all this retail and we'll have empty stores on ground level. And to Councilmember Prushella's point, I would rather see those in the existing King Farm Village. The other thing I would do on a citywide basis is create a moderately priced commercial unit program, so that it's not just Starbucks and national chains, but also locally owned, minority owned, and veteran owned nonprofit and that kind of thing in the retail space. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Quan Lee. So actually I was in the multiple public hearings when the Shady Grove Neighbor Village was proposed on behalf of our community. And most of our citizens were concerned about the traffic issue and because of the additional housing that was coming in. But in general, from the retail perspective, it's going to be, I believe, if I remember correctly, a shopping center or a supermarket with a few retails. I don't think it's going to compete against our village center, because I think that it's going to attract more of people outside. It's going to offer some additional retail for the folks who live on that Picard and our Gaithers and Picard area. So I don't think it will be competing against each other in terms of the commercial.
Hi, my name is James Hedrick. I've done a lot of economic development and housing work in the past. It was my career when I was at HUD and when I was a consultant. My read of the Shady Grove project is it's not, like that some people have already said, it's not going to compete too much. The thing we need to do is make sure that there's enough people there that they're going to be able to patronize the businesses and support the businesses that are there, as well as come over to the King Farm community and shop in those businesses as well. The other things that we need to keep an eye on is I don't think it's going to have any problems of town center, because it's a different type of development. It's a different type of system. And we need to make sure that it's integrated both, like somebody else said, with public transportation and then alternative transit options, which includes walking and biking. Make sure that it's integrated and connected to the King Farm community so people can go back and forth, shop at both places. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Cynthia Cotty Griffiths, so not quite in alphabetical order. Legally, my last name is Cotty Griffiths, C-O-T-T-E Griffiths. I'm second on the ballot. The Shady Grove neighborhood community is slated to have 2 buildings, so they could either be 2 office buildings or an office building and a hotel. They actually put in for traffic like 4 times the traffic that they possibly could have, so they could prepare for any eventual future. And I think that the shops that are there and the grocery store that are there will really serve the people in the townhouses and the multifamily that are close by. Hopefully it would not affect you all here at King Farm Village, but if it did, maybe there are some other alternative uses you'd prefer for some of that retail space in your town square here.
Good evening. My name is Richard Godfrey. Yep. So the first thing is, with any development, we want to make sure that we satisfy all 3 kind of legs of a tripod, that there has a small business piece for small businesses, commercial piece, 2 retail, and 3 residential. So that all 3 are being served, so those who have small businesses, their clients can come and then support the retail. 2, we should look at the town center master plan, which talks about just providing services that the community needs and not services that are not needed. Also, for the name, instead of putting like 11500 Rockville Pike or Shady Grove Road, to call it actually in Google the name of the center, so people can actually find the center by the center's name and not by an address.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Beryl Feinberg. What I would do for both the King Farm community and for this new project, I think we have to be very careful at looking at wayfinding so people know whether they're coming to this project in the retail center or if they are coming to the new one. We also have to be very aware of signage, and the comprehensive sign code ordinance, which was just passed last night, will give the ability for both King Farm to have an entrance and signage on 355, as the same will be for the new development and their retail space. We should look for something unique, like an arts and crafts venue, so would have a different niche than perhaps the niches that are over here in stores. Also, automated traffic signals would help. Thank you.
Good evening, Monique Ashton. And I do think that we're gonna have to do some marketing and awareness of the businesses to make sure that we are trying to look for unique needs in terms of the retail and services that are offered, so they're not duplicative of the what is in King Farm already. I also think that we need to make sure that we have adequate parking, signage, and visibility. We've learned those lessons from Town Center. And then other piece is just considering our traffic so that we can support pedestrian and bike safety access.
Okay, we're going to move on to the next question, if that's okay. But this is going to be a dealer's choice. Whoever wants to answer this question, just go for it. All right, this is coming in. This is hot off the presses from the audience. I love this question. Some city boards and commissions have had vacancies for up to 3 years. Why is this, and what would you do about it? So let's start with the mayoral candidates. Go ahead.
Well, one of the things that I propose to do is to start to fill these vacancies. And the mayor has filled some. She filled 12 of them on October the 7th. But only since I've been complaining about that has she filled them. And some of those expressions of interest were from January, some from March, some from May, some from June. And as mayor of this city, I will harness all the talent that we have to get people expressions of interest reviewed and moved on to the council for confirmation. Thank you.
Can I rebut?
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Thank you. According to the charter, the mayor nominates and the council confirms. The problem is that you can't put somebody on a board or commission if they don't have an application in. And there are several of our boards and commissions where there have been no applications. There are others that the council did not confirm the mayor's choice, so that's listed as a vacancy even though the seat is currently being held. We have one of those on the Planning Commission, and gratefully the attorney has served even though he has not been reappointed by the council. I have worked very, very hard in the past 4 years to appoint a diversity of people across all sectors, geographic, thought, gender, race, any kind of thought difference you can have, to make sure that our boards and commissions represent all of Rockville and not just a particular mindset. Thank you.
Go ahead.
May I jump in? Sorry. James Hedrick again. I was on the boards and commissions task force. We just released our report a couple of nights ago. There have been people serving on boards and commissions for 4 and even 5 years past their expiration date. In between 4 and 5 years, somebody ought to be able to get on there. There's not been a problem with it. There's not been a problem with applications or a lack thereof. There have been plenty of applications people are not getting, they're not getting responded to. Their applications are not being moved on. They're not being told that it's been received or that there's vacancy, anything like that. We need to have a mechanism for the city council to vote to move someone to the floor to vote on a nomination outside of simply the mayoral nomination process. And we talked about that extensively with the BCTF. Thanks.
Monique Ashton, go ahead.
Yes, this is Monique Ashton. I do know that there have been, in about this year, perhaps 25 vacancies, over 25 boards and commissions. I do think that Rockville is tremendously talented. We have a highly educated population. I just want to be frank, most people don't know about the boards and commission availabilities that there are. I think we need to go out and dig deeper into communities, not expect people to come to us, but go to them and find them. There are plenty of places to do that between Montgomery College, between next door, going into our school communities. There's lots of talent that we can harness.
Go ahead.
Quan Lee here. I have to say that I really believe that it's trying to get people to be aware of these board and commissions as well. Our King Farm, actually, a lot of our residents are on board and commissions. Historically, we have folks on Planning Commission, on the Transportation Commission. I personally am on Rockville Financial Advisory Board, along with another King Farm resident who I invited. And so, you know, as a King Farm resident, in the last 3 years, I've been trying to encourage our residents to get on board and commissions, because the way I got on was through our resident or our former president. And so in general, I believe that whenever we applied, we were able to get in. Thank you.
Charles Littlefield.
Thank you. Yeah, in the 10 years that I've been involved in Rockville, has always been through, including the last 7 on the Planning Commission, has always been through boards and commissions. So I think they're very important, and the volunteerism and the talent of the citizens of Rockville is actually one of the things that makes this a great city. So I have two ideas. One is whatever boards and commissions we have, they need to be demand driven. I know that everybody that's on some board doesn't want it to go away, but it takes a lot of staff time to support these, and they are limited in numbers. So that's one thing to consider the mix. And the other is a thing known as participatory budgeting. They do this in other countries. They give a small amount of budget authority to boards and commissions such as that, $20,000, $25,000. Not a big impact, but it gives them some feel of importance because they get to decide how to spend it.
Donald Masters, you want to just...
I think Monique is on to something. The problem in our area is everybody just works too much. So you try to get somebody to take some of their free time, unpaid time in the evenings, weekends, whatever it takes. I've run into this when I was on these type of boards in Arlington, and we really had to reach out to people in the fields that we were looking for to try to recruit people that were qualified and would be willing to serve. It's a tough one to answer.
Okay, we're going to move on to our next. Is anybody else?
I would.
Oh, okay.
May I?
Go ahead, yes.
I'm Brigida Mulliken, and I actually was on the Rockville Sister City Task Force in 1982, and I also was on the Board of Supervisors of Election and the Planning Commission. I know the process, how it has worked in the city of Rockville, and it's a lot of politics involved. When I applied for the task force, I can tell you I was the only one that applied from the community because of an advertisement in the Rockville reports. All the other people were asked to be on that task force. When I was elected for the Planning Commission, that was very controversial because not everybody voted for me and they wanted to know would I want to be on a different one. I think the solution is that we need to increase the city council to more people so they can reach out to more people because it's a very select group that's being selected at this point in time.
David Miles?
I think a common thing we've heard is that it's a very political process that shouldn't necessarily have to be. I myself applied for the Planning Commission 3 years ago and haven't heard back. I don't know why, but I think there are. I think they're building on some of the things that they're saying, like perhaps depoliticizing it. As what James was saying, perhaps the Board and Commission Task Force can play a more active role in doing it. Because I've met people out while canvassing who've expressed interest in volunteering with the city, and it should not necessarily come down to being a political process. We need to have a diversity of thought, experience, and viewpoints on our boards and commissions. Thank you.
Beryl Feinberg.
Thank you very much. There are several things I think that we can do. I think, as Monique has said, we can do more outreach to where our diverse communities shop, worship, dine, go to their grocery stores, and literally go to where they are. In addition, I had suggested that we have a volunteer coordinator in the city who would be responsible for monitoring and tracking the length of time that there has been an expression of interest, that those people have put forth their names. In addition, the criticism about not having younger people, really the younger people who may be raising families, they don't have the time. I've been in that same situation. It's very difficult to volunteer when you're raising a family. Thank you.
Cynthia Cotty Griffiths.
I talked to 3 people this summer that told me that they had applied for boards and commissions and never heard a single word back. And I found myself profusely apologizing to them at the door and feeling really, really bad about that. But then it occurred to me, I started to get a little annoyed by the 3rd one because I thought, I'm not the one that did that to them. And they shouldn't be treated that way when they want to come forward. When I chaired the Human Services Advisory Commission, I had the great idea of doing videos about all the boards and commissions. We did one about human services. It's still out there. It's still pertinent. There are lots of ways we could get people involved and get the word out, but we have to treat them fairly when they do apply.
Richard, you want to go?
Richard Godfrey. So was on the board of my accounting society, and we have 15 board members, and they're all business owners, and they find the time to be on the board, go to 6 board meetings, and all the activities. So I'm going to come from a different angle. we have to empower our volunteers. It's tough. Everyone has a busy schedule. They got a lot of commitments, family, work, children. And I'm not just talking about giving a yearly report and the president of the board stands up and gives a report. I'm talking about having a real work session with the mayor and council where they tell us what they're going to cover for the year, quarterly updates of how they're progressing, and this, everybody's on TV. Every single volunteer is in that round table. We have a round table discussion.
Susan Pittman?
Thank you. Some of these commissions have legal requirements. Planning Commission has a certain makeup that it's required to have by law because they deliver decisions that are legally binding. The Historic District Commission is the same, so not just anybody can serve on some of these commissions. I think, too, when we do outreach, and I learned this as president of the East Rockville Civic Association, we can make volunteer work look awful. Like it's this drudge, this slog through this swamp of doom. And it's not. It's engaging and it's fun and you meet your neighbors, and we don't sell it well enough about the impact you can have and about how wonderful it is to give back to your city. So it's outreach, but it's also the way we communicate about the impact of what you're doing.
Okay. And Mark?
Yes, I just want to say that it's very rare for a council to refuse a nomination by the mayor. It happens, but it's very rare. I can recall twice in this 4-year term. That's not the cause of vacancies. My observation over the past 15 or 20 years is that the appointment process has been a very tightly held privilege of the mayor, and any of those mayors can reach out to his or her council members to ask for help to fill the positions. 5 people have a lot more connections in the community than just one person. So I think the mayor, even under the current circumstances, can reach out to council members to get help to fill those positions.
Is anybody interested in being on a board or commission? It might be the time.
It's fun.
Okay. All right, I guess we're going to do this with everyone. Governor Hogan recently announced the CCT is off the drawing boards for the foreseeable future. With that issue off the table, King farmers are concerned about the widening of I-270 and putting an interchange in at Goody and Research Boulevard. That could significantly increase traffic in and around King Farm. What's your position on this proposed interchange? We'll start with the mayor.
Sure. Thank you. Actually, I know that King Farm did not want the CCT to go down King Farm Boulevard, so I share your pleasure that that has been taken away. However, I would strongly advocate that the CCT be reconstituted onto Shady Grove Road so that it becomes an economic driver for that area, both Rockville on the south side and Gaithersburg on the north. It would also help with the discussion we just had about the Shady Grove neighborhood that's coming, and give them right away transit down to the Shady Grove Metro. As far as widening 270, I live close to 270 as well in the West End. I do not want to see it widened. I have worked very diligently to see that that doesn't happen. I also don't support the toll roads. So I'm hoping that we will bring the transit back into the bigger discussion and allow transit to come from Frederick down. I think that would really be a game changer for all of us and help with, not just with time spent wasted in traffic, but with our environment. Thank you.
Many moons ago, the CCT was supposed to run all the way up to Frederick, but for some reason the state drug their feet. But I was really upset that the governor pulled the project, because he gave, the project was $800 million plus, and he just kind of handed it over to Montgomery County. So we have to, if we're ever gonna get a handle on the environment, we need mass transit. I hope we don't put an interchange at Goody Drive, but we certainly do need mass transit, and we need to sit down and figure out, number one, what's the best plan, because the state only was at 30% of the plan, and number two, how will we afford it and who will pay for it? So we've got a lot of work we have to do. Thank you.
Council members want to, or council candidates, would you like to jump in on this, or go ahead? Whoever wants to answer this question.
I'll answer it.
Okay, go ahead, Quan
Well,
Lee.
so like all of you, I oppose the CCT vehemently, and like many of you, I wrote a letter objecting to it because I'm a dog. I own a dog. I walk my dog on King Farm Boulevard, and I see kids crossing that street every day, and so having some mass transit go through there, it was a huge pedestrian risk. I don't oppose it going to Shady Grove, up to Shady Grove, because I think that it goes back to that question about the new project, Shady Grove Neighborhood Village. I think it will be a great way to bring more foot traffic to that area, so it doesn't compete against the King Farm Village Center.
Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I think the CCT and the widening I-270 are actually very related. That the reason we're talking about widening I-270 is because we don't have a CCT. I think as far as you better be careful what you wish for. You might actually get it someday. A bus rapid transit, a true bus rapid transit on Shady Grove Road would almost surely mean usurping 2 lanes out of 6 for that bus rapid transit, because bus rapid transit really means dedicated lanes. What are those cars going to do? Look at your community, look at the map that you're on. You are such an open community. If you clog Shady Grove Road, where are those cars going to go? Where are their GIS systems going to send them? They're going to send them right through King Farm. So you really have to look at your alternatives.
Go ahead, Donald.
This is Don Masters. So I'm against I-270 expansion. For my business, I drive up and down the highways quite a bit, and it doesn't solve the choke points, which are 2 lanes to Frederick and the American Legion Bridge. I was talking to a guy the other day who lives in Frederick. He grew up in Chevy Chase. Then he moved as an adult, bought a house here in the city of Rockville, and now moved to Frederick. And I just said, oh, by the way, what do you think about the widening? And he says, it's only going to make it worse. And he lives up there, so he has to drive that mess every day to work.
Okay, David Miles.
Building on what both Virginia and Mark said, I think it speaks to the bigger issue. I think probably the most important issue facing this city and many cities throughout the country. That's how do you mitigate climate change, and then how do you mitigate climate change in the context of population growth? And that's where these 2 things come to a head. As a general principle, I do support public transit, whether it's through King Farm or outside King Farm. I'm open to all ideas, but that's the way we need to go. Another way to build on that is to make sure that our development is around transit centers, around places like Shady Grove Metro, Rockville Metro, as opposed to the sprawl that's going on up through 270. So how we answer those is a question we're going to have to answer regardless. The way we go about doing it is what we need to discuss today and moving forward. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Charles Littlefield. Well, to answer the question, I'm opposed to the widening of I-270. All it is a project in urban sprawl, 1950s style, so people can live way up in Frederick and drive all the way down here to work. And we need to stop doing that. That's not smart growth. Smart growth is we use our existing infrastructure. I was especially opposed to the phase 2 of CCT, where people would come from Clarksburg and then get on the metro in Shady Grove to go to a job in Virginia or DC. Maryland has the longest commuting times of any state in the U.S. We need to quit trying to increase that. We need to decrease that. One last thing I'll say as a planning commissioner, and one thing we've talked about a lot, is the future on mass transit. It's kind of unclear. We have things like Uber and Lyft, and we need to be kind of careful on what we invest in, because we don't know how things are going to end up, and mass transit's getting more and more expensive.
James Hedrick, do you want to go?
Yeah. The I-270 widening was a bad plan to start with, and it's only gotten worse. The interchange is a bad idea. The whole plan's a bad idea. But to address issues like congestion and things like that, you can't build your way out of that with roads. What you need is some sort of transit option like the CCT or bus rapid transit, something like that. And to address things like commutes and congestion and things like that, I've worked on a lot of these projects in different cities around the country. You need to bring the businesses into your community so people don't have to go so far to get a job. Selfishly, I have an hour commute both ways, about 2 hours total every day. I'd rather not do that if I can avoid it. My wife works right over in King Farm in one of the businesses on King Farm Boulevard. Her commute's about 15 minutes. So we need to do more to bring those businesses here into our own community and have the transit options available for people to get to and from their job. Thanks.
You want to go, Richard?
Yeah.
Okay.
Rich Godfrey again. So quickly, I'm against widening I-270, and also I'm against taking Rockville property owners by eminent domain. But I can't do it alone. It's about someone who has the partnerships and the relationships, and it's going to be all of us. I ran for Montgomery County Council at Large in 2018. I developed those relationships with the Montgomery County Council, with the Gaithersburg City Council, and all of the state legislators in Montgomery County. And it's going to take all of us communicating with each other and then going to Annapolis to advocate on behalf of you, the residents, not just one person.
Monique Ashton?
I am against the widening of 270 for a number of reasons. I have concerns about the environmental impact. The research shows that we're just going to bring more traffic, not less. I also think there needs to be mass transit. There were options for mass transit early on that were miraculously removed. We need to look at that. In terms of the CCT, I do think that we need to consider businesses and the future of who the population is. People like ride sharing, they like options for mass transit. And we need to think about giving access to that both for folks up north and people who live in this area. I think we can attract more businesses if we have mass transit. I don't think it should go on King Farm Boulevard because the road wasn't designed for that.
All right. You want to go, Cynthia? Go ahead.
Cynthia Cotty Griffiths. I'm definitely against, even if it's slightly widening 270, to put the pay lanes in, because that's really what they're doing. They're taking lanes that are free for us now, adding a couple more that are pay lanes without even thinking about reversible lanes or other such options. I've been a strong supporter of the CCT. I know the Germantown Gaithersburg Chamber of Commerce is really coming out very strongly. You could see where it's carved out all the way down through to go through all these communities. You can see it looking at maps. I understand that the people in King Farm didn't want it going through, and I think it could very well go on Shady Grove Road. It could help the Shady Grove new neighborhood to become a real shining star. They could get all the benefits from it, so it would be good to still have it.
Susan?
I was very disappointed that the CCT was canceled. I'm glad it's not going through your neighborhood, but we have to get out of our cars and onto buses and onto the metro. It is an environmental imperative that we do so. I do not want to see I-270 widened. Toll roads are a regressive tax on our most vulnerable neighbors and not the right thing to do. We're going to have to really work with the state on this and push for some different ideas. I'd also like to see our bicycle lanes better connected and more of the WMATA bicycles that you can check out and rent. Thank you.
Beryl Feinberg?
Sure, thank you very much. I absolutely would not want to see the so-called Lexus lanes or toll lanes. I would agree with Susan Pittman down there. It is economically regressive. Everyone who has to go to work or wants to go to school or for any other activity should have the ability to go on those roads. By having it the other way, you are only allowing those people who have the most resources or are reimbursed by their employer to go on to the toll roads. I also do not want to see the widening because of the eminent domain, not either during construction or permanently taking whole homes or even parts of property, and it will reduce the values of those adjoining property owners.
We got everybody? Everybody good? James, you want to name your wife's business?
Institutional Shareholder Services.
Okay.
It's,
Yeah.
no one
I
would
don't want you
recognize
to
it.
go
You
home
literally-
tonight and, not
They got a couple
fun.
floors in one of those buildings, though. It's very nice.
All right, we're going to start with Quan Lee on this one, work our way down this way, and then work our way back up that way, just to keep things fair, that everybody gets a chance to be heard first. School boundaries. The recent debate over raising the APFO cap shows the City Council can send a signal to the county if it wants. Will the City Council use that voice to advocate that all the children of King Farm be included in the Richard Montgomery School Cluster? Well, some murmurs here. All right.
I'm sure many of us would love all our students to go down to Richard Montgomery. I actually live in the north side near the farmstead of King Farm, so it would greatly impact my area. And so I would support it. And I think our community in the past has fought for getting all our students, King Farm residents, kids, to go to the same school. So I think it will be in the interest of King Farm.
Thanks for the question on the APFO. That was actually the first thing I did when I volunteered for the city was I sat on an APFO review committee as just a resident. Learned a lot about it. I favor a strong APFO. I think that there's a lot of misunderstanding about what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to fix school overcrowding. That's not the purpose of it. That's what planners across the U.S., when they talk about it, say is that it's supposed to delay and phase the development so that schools have a time to catch up. You can't just build a school in 1 year. So I favor a strong APFO. Most cities have their limit at 80, 90%. Ours is 120. 150 in my mind is just absolutely crazy. At that point, you're just making fun of the law itself. So thank you.
Go ahead.
So if I'm elected to the council, I would certainly want to reach out to both the school board, MCPS, and the the Montgomery County Council to try to work through this. I just think we're hamstrung by the county, and we're the ones paying the price, and we should have schools in our neighborhoods that our students can feel comfortable living in. I ran into a guy that worked for MCPS just the other day, and he says as soon as they build a school, they're putting in trailers. So it's just like a bunch of drunken sailors for Montgomery County to be building faster they can build their schools.
Well, it's no surprise that Brigida Mulliken disagrees with a lot of people on the APFO, and that's because I've been saying for years that the school board controls this. The city of Rockville does not have any control of the boundaries, the amount of classroom size, the programs that are put in the schools, and the boundary is the biggest issue. I know that a lot of people buy their homes where they think that their kids are going to go to school, and we know that this boundary issue study that's going to come about is very critical. The city of Rockville has no control, and we already know that I supported the exception for 2 projects that would allow the projects to go forward because the APFO would have stopped it. Thank you.
It took a lot of convincing to have my wife move from Manhattan here. The biggest decision point were the schools. In Manhattan, as many of you know, you have to test in the schools. I mean, it begins pretty early. But both my wife and I, she grew up in Oklahoma City. I grew up in Atlanta. We had community schools. You just attend school where your neighbor attends school. And that we have artificial lines like Redland Boulevard, I think it is here, that divides a community just makes no sense to me. So I recognize that the city council has no jurisdiction over schools, but I think even as a pediatrician, we play a very big advocacy role on behalf of our patients. And similarly, our city hall can advocate on behalf of our parents and students. I advocate for students going to a community school. Certainly, I'm in favor of Richard Montgomery or Crown, but whatever I think when you have people living in Rockville, I think they should all attend schools in the community. Thank you.
So school boundaries is a very interesting topic. Only half of King Farm right now is in the Richard Montgomery cluster. If all of King Farm were to be put in the Richard Montgomery cluster, which neighborhood do you want me to kick out of the Richard Montgomery cluster? Because that's what you're doing. If this whole neighborhood comes into RM, somebody else is going to have to go to a different school. So you have to think of it that way. The APFO is problematic. We should have one, but we should be a lot smarter about it. This community here would not be here today if there had been an APFO 20, 25 years ago, because you have overcrowded tons of schools. But I live in College Gardens. I've told my neighborhood we're so much better off for King Farm being here, even though you all overcrowded College Gardens Elementary. There's a lot of positives to development. Thank you.
It's good for kids in neighborhoods to rally behind one high school and for the kids to come up together through the same school cluster. I'm really looking forward to seeing what the preliminary boundary study says and how we can assist you and how we can bring that to bear for your neighborhood. That said, I am a strong proponent of keeping the APFO at 120%. I'm a former public school teacher, and I taught in Texas where there are no caps on secondary education. So I know what it feels like when student number 33 and student number 34 show up in your classroom 7th period. And our classrooms run on an economy of minutes. And every time they add a student, it takes time away from all of them. So I do support the 120% cap on the APFO.
All right, so we're going to continue with this question with Bridget Newton and work our way back down to James Hedrick.
Thank you. The original question was about all of our children going to the same school, in this case, Richard Montgomery. I absolutely agree with those who think that neighborhoods should stay together, and mine was just split with Bayard Ruston. With that said, I also think our job as council in the city of Rockville is to work very closely with our partners at the county level, both MCPS and the county, to ensure that all of the schools are built to the full size. We were able to get that done with Bayard Ruston. I worked really hard with our cluster coordinators to make sure that Bayard Ruston was built to 740 and not 620. It's almost overcrowded. I absolutely believe we need the APFO in the city. Right now it's at 120. I'd rather see it at 100, but 120 is the highest I would ever go on that. We've got to work together to find alternatives for schools as well.
Well, first of all, I don't like it that neighborhoods are broken up and part of the neighborhood goes to one school, part of the neighborhood goes to another school. I think neighborhoods need to be kept at the same school. I mean, your neighbors. So that's number one. Number two, I think we need to lean a little bit harder on Montgomery County Public Schools and the state of Maryland. And we need to make sure that we have the right APFO level so that we get the schools that we need. And I tell everybody a prime example was there was supposed to be an addition to Richard Montgomery High School. And because Crown built ahead of us, they pulled the funding for that development, and now Crown's getting a new school. So working with MCPS and working with the state of Maryland, we need to bond together and really push to get what we need for the city of Rockville.
Love to sit with you all for an hour on this question, but I have 45 seconds. I have been a Richard Montgomery cluster coordinator. I've also been the PTA president of College Gardens. In that role, I specifically worked on the boundary study that impacted College Gardens and also got an opportunity to remove those portables. During that boundary study process, we worked to make sure that King Farm was not further split up. There was an option that you all didn't see, that they were going to further divide the neighborhood and look at splitting them up and sending them to different schools. In terms of the APFO, I think that it's an important tool. We need to have it. I'm tired of people saying that schools are not our job here on City Council. It is our job to advocate. If someone is in a crash on the state road, it's our job to advocate. If there's 270 is impacting Rockville residents, it's our job to advocate. I think that we need to make sure that we are advocating for the residents, whether it's in our jurisdiction or not.
Thank you very much. In terms of the APFO, I have been on the record for the last 6 or 8 or 9 months very adamantly saying, no, I will not support any APFO over 120%. The APFO came about in the county in 1973 for a reason. The reason was that there was inadequate outpacing of development for water, sewer, traffic, police, and schools. APFO covers more than schools. In terms of advocacy, absolutely. The mayor and I have both testified and advocated at the Board of Education, at the county council. We can do that to support you as the residents. There is something we can do. In terms of funding, only 6% comes from impact taxes.
Richard Godfrey, I agree. APFO at 120%. Actually, our neighborhood was affected. As past president of the Twinbrook Citizens Association, the Board of Education wanted to split Twinbrook Elementary School to go to Bayard Ruston and the Hungerford community. The neighborhood was very upset because that part of the neighborhood is very Hispanic. And you're going to break up the Hispanic families, their friends, and their neighbors who all grow up and play with each other and hang out in the neighborhood. So they came to the TCA meeting. They said, we need help. And so we helped them, and we advocated, went to the Board of Education, and a very close vote, they were allowed to stay at Twinbrook Elementary School. Also, let's see, I got a couple of seconds, that we need to be proactive. that we just got to wait for the Board of Ed and MCPS to tell us what we're going to do with our schools. We need to have a task force, and then we come up with a neighborhood by neighborhood plan
Thank you.
to tell MCPS what we want for boundary limits.
Hi, I'm Cynthia Cotty-Griffiths. I think the APFO is a very useful tool. I see it on Traffic and Transportation Commission because we make sure that these new communities don't create too much traffic and they actually lower it and we can make improvements to intersections. As for schools, I was Richard Montgomery PTSA president right up to June 30th of this year. I was president when they took away our addition. So I've seen what the moving around of money can do, and I understand the changes in boundaries. I would say my children were bused down to Ritchie Park Elementary School, even though every other street beyond our street went to Bell Elementary. So I've experienced what that means to have your community shift, and I agree with with Peter Gajewski, who said that everyone within the city here should go to our city schools, and I'm willing to pick up that baton.
All right, saving the best for last. I've got two little kids. I've got a 5-year-old and a now 2-year-old. I've got 24 kid years left of school ahead of me. This is a very, very important issue to me. The school boundary study is going to be one of the most important things that the county, MCPS, and the Board of Education does in the next couple of years. It's going to affect us dramatically. We don't have the direct control over the schools. It's unfortunate, but we don't. What we have then is advocacy. And I've been on like I said, I've been on the Boards and Commissions Task Force. One thing that came up a lot when we talked about boards and commissions was reviving the Education Commission, giving it a mission and a motive to advocate for all of Rockville schools. I think that's something we should take into account. More directly, when we talk about RM and King Farm, we need to make sure that MCPS and the Board of Education takes into account everything, including transportation, public transportation, all that, so that kids can get to the schools that they're assigned. Thanks.
All right, we have time for about 2 more questions, and so I'm going to let you decide. I know what one of them is going to be, but I need help deciding what this one is. You want to talk about the deer population, or do you want to talk about... No? Yes? No? Civility in the campaign? Yeah, okay. All right. Good.
I didn't hear what he said.
Everybody loves the cute little deer? Is that the...
We all agree on it.
Okay. Civility, diversity, inclusion, integrity. We hear these words a lot, but what we've seen in the city council and the campaign for re-election, well, there's still some work to do. What will you do to practice civility, diversity, integrity, and inclusion from a position of mayor or on the city council? We're going to start with Virginia Onley.
Okay. Well, there has been some times when there hasn't been civility on the council. And I can say that in 6 years, I only sounded off once. So if you do a radar, look at it's a matter of public record, look at the meetings, you can see that I'm the mellow one in the group. And I will continue with that mellowness and harness everyone and control the meetings. You need stronger leadership, and that's what I bring to the table. Because I've served on 9 boards and commissions. I'm co-vice of St. Mary's Parish Council, and I was at IBM for 36 years. So I will bring all of that to the table to keep our meetings peaceful. Strong leadership is what you need, and that's what I bring.
Bridget Newton.
Thank you. Well, as the mayor for the past 6 years, I think if you do watch the meetings, you'll see that I have done an admirable job of maintaining decorum for as much as I was able to do. It has been my honor and privilege to serve as mayor, and it has also been a challenge to ensure that everyone comes to the meetings prepared and ready to speak. So I do encourage you to look at the meetings over the past couple years and see who has held their tongue and who has not. It's been instructive to me. I also think that part of the problem with the campaigning is it has gotten personal. And I would challenge everybody to let's be our better selves, let's be our best selves, and if there's something that's bothering you, let's talk to each other instead of putting it out there publicly. There have been some things said recently on blogs and whatnot that have not only been false, but they've been very mean-spirited, and we're better than that, Rockville, so let's show it. Thank you.
And let's just work our way down alphabetically.
Again, my name is Monique Ashton. So the question is on civility, diversity, and inclusion. I can say I've worked on diversity and inclusion for over 20 years, and it's something that I do in my professional life. I also am trained on issues and conflict management. Hope to bring some of those skills to our city council. Since you asked, I'm going to share, I have received comments about the intersectionality of who I am as a working woman, as a mother, as a minority. It's something that I had to develop very, very thick skin about. And I think that, you know, we need to look at how people beat each other up during the election process. We want good people to serve, and so we need to be civil both when we run and when we're in office, and that's something I promise to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have thought about civility and what we could do to improve the civility in the next term. I'd like to see volunteer activities amongst all the 5 electives, going to a shelter, working at a food bank together, and doing something together, and so build those relationships of doing good for our community. I'd like us to break bread together. And so don't talk about policy. We're not allowed to. That we don't want to be in violation of the Open Meetings Act. But let's go and have a good time together, socialize. Let's identify the common grounds and eliminate polarization. I'd also like us to have a policy to end meetings at 11. Like Cinderella, after 11 o'clock, none of us are good. I'm sorry, that is when a lot of the testiness begins. And I'd also like the name calling to stop at meetings.
So again, as past president of the Neighborhood Association in Twinbrook, we're a very diverse community. And not only that, we're the, in your neighborhood as well, that there's always gonna be people who are gonna be for an issue and against an issue. So not everyone is on the same wavelength. And so as president, you have to be in compromise and listen to all of your neighborhoods and then try to bring a compromise to those issues. So that's my experience I'm going to bring to the table. When we had meetings about including diversity, again, our neighborhood's diverse. We have Hispanics, so some speak Spanish. We have Asian, so in Chinese, we have Mandarin signs when our meetings are allowed and that they're welcome to come.
Cynthia Cotty-Griffiths. I really created a civic space when I was editor of RockvilleCentral.com. We allowed opinions on both sides. We moderated comments. We started by saying, don't ever put up a comment that you wouldn't say to people's faces. But then we noticed around Rockville that people were saying things to each other's faces that were not very good. So we had to reevaluate, but we really moderated that. And I had people tell me they couldn't do what we do in creating that space. Some of you may be aware that we removed our committee chair for Team Rockville because we wanted to have only the extreme highest standards through this campaign. I've been a big inclusion person in elementary school all the way up through high school of making sure everyone has a space in Richard Montgomery and at Ritchie Park when I worked with both principals to create those communities.
James Hedrick again. In one of my previous jobs, I used to travel around the country working with cities and counties, literally all the way up from Puerto Rico down to Alaska. And one of the projects that I worked on for several years is I was the last person you saw before you went into receivership, before your city went bankrupt. If you want to have a situation in which civility kind of goes out the window, go to a city that's going bankrupt. The way to deal with those issues is to always be the person that is calm, that is keeping people focused on the issues and making sure that we work through the process. People will get mad at you, people will get upset, people will vent at you. You have to be the bigger person, you have to sit there and you have to keep everybody on task. That's something that we need to do better of when the city council, and I think it's something we need to do better throughout our city government. Thanks.
So regarding diversity, in 2017, I proposed a sister city relationship with the Asian community here in Rockville, and guess what? After 62 years, I helped our Asian community create a second sister city with Rockville last July. In fact, we're already exercising the beauty of the sister city. The Richard Montgomery Jazz Band went to Taiwan recently for a week, and I highly recommend everyone to go out and check their Twitter and Facebook page to see, you know, all the excitements that they had in this diverse cultural exchange. In terms of civility, we got to stop pitting people against one another. We can't say this group versus this group, you know, this team or what that team. We need to represent everyone as a city council member. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for the question. The problem with civility has to do with the slates, and this started 6 years ago with Team Rockville, and now it's even worse because now we have Rockville Forward. The problem with the slates is they're creating polarization. Washington, D.C. style Republican-Democrat polarization. Nothing gets done. People hate each other. They fight, and all they do is disagree, and it doesn't help the country, and it doesn't help this city, and it will not help this city. I'm an independent candidate. I'm not running with any slate, and I will make decisions in an open-minded manner, independently, and I will try to look for middle ground between the two slates if elected. And with respect to diversity, what we need to do is increase the size of our council. Look at the 13 of us here. Close your eyes. You will not see that diversity when there's only 4. Thank you.
I believe it was back in September, I was attending one of the council meetings, and 2 of the council members were going at it for seemed like 10 minutes, and finally the mayor had to drop the gavel, which should not have been necessary. If you elect me to council, I may disagree with things, but I will be a collegial member of the council and not get into those back and forths. Regarding disability, I spent over 4 years at the Disability Program Office at the Pentagon. I don't have a dog in the fight, so I don't know why I have a heart for people with disabilities, but I'm very interested and involved in disability and the ADA.
Brigida Mulliken, I have integrity in Rockville for 40 years of community service. Diversity. As Rich said, I'm also from Trimbrook. We have a very diverse community. When I had my kickoff for my campaign, I actually had my speech in Spanish and Chinese available to people. Inclusion. I want to be a voice on the city council for everyone in Rockville. I have been going door to door for 3 months, and I want to represent their views. Inclusion means accepting people with a different opinion, and that's what I bring to the community, to the council. Thank you.
One thing I found in knocking over 10,000 doors is that people are more likely to open the door if I lead with, I'm a pediatrician, as opposed to, I'm running for office, right? And I think there's a reason for that. I mean, we know why physicians are held in higher esteem than politicians, and particularly pediatricians. Why is that? Well, it's probably related to the fact that pediatricians are the lowest paid among medical subspecialties. And that's because pediatricians advocate for kids. We're not advocating for our own salaries. And I would take that same sort of frame of mind if I were to be elected. I'm advocating for you. I'm advocating for your kids as if they were my own. I would advocate for you as if you were my aunt, my mom, my grandmother. And that's what we need to bring to bear here in City Council. I prefer the term public servant as opposed to politician, so that we can remember what it is we're here to do, and that is to serve you. Thank you.
You know, I really love a robust debate, and I don't mind being passionate, but I do debate policy. I don't debate personalities. The uncivility on American Council has been going on at least 15 years, well before slates came. And when I formed Team Rockville in 2013, one of the big reasons was precisely to tackle the issue of uncivility on the council. What I've seen a mayor and a council member humiliate a city manager. I've seen a council member nuke a bond council before us. I've seen some very awful behavior even within the past year. It depends on the personalities you elect. I guess I'm up. Time.
Thank you. Susan Pittman. As a veteran community leader and someone new to elected politics, I've been alarmed at some of the things that have been said by the people who have said them, and I was not expecting it at the local level for it to be that way, and I'm sorry that it happened. I am always the same person. In fact, I've had friends say, it's getting a little boring, you always say the same things, but they are the things that I believe, and I bring that level of integrity to every aspect of my life. If I say something to you, it's the same thing I said to someone else in another venue. Diversity and inclusion, I agree, we need a larger, more diverse council, and we need to do more work in this city on moving from celebrating diversity to truly including all comers. Thank you.
All right, we've come to the part of the evening where we're going to have our 1-minute closing statements. And we're going to start again and work our way all the way back up this way. So start with Susan. And go.
Government is about people. Its success should be measured by lives improved and opportunities unlocked and how well we elevate our shared experiences. When I was elected president of the East Rockville Civic Association, I led our neighborhood through an inclusive process that resulted in a set of city plans ensuring East Rockville remains a person-centered, vibrant, diverse neighborhood for generations to come. With an unmatched collaborative spirit and inclusivity, we accomplished under my leadership in 4 years what the city had been unable to do in 2 decades. The process strengthened our community, and we had fun while we did it. It took a willingness to listen and learn, hard work, and a deep commitment to working effectively with diverse stakeholders. And as your council member, we'll work together to finally preserve and interpret the farmstead so that it adds value to your neighborhood and to the city. And we'll continue to fight for transportation solutions that keep us moving while respecting our neighborhoods. Thank you.
Mark Pershela. I'm the guy on the bike. You've probably seen me quite a bit in King Farm. I have walked the city one time. That was over 500 miles of walking, but I did King Farm twice. I've biked the city 4 times. I've been up and down your stormwater management streams. I had to worry about King Farm a lot when I was College Garden Civic Association president, because we're just downstream from you. And we had the College Gardens Elementary School, and a lot of people complained about King Farm, and I said, don't complain about King Farm. They're bringing so much good to us. We have much better stormwater management. We got a new school because you overcrowded the old school. Thank you. I have worked tirelessly since elected office to get something at King Farm Farmstead, an adaptive use. I've come close twice, but I've never had the support from council members and mayors that we've needed to do it. Hopefully, in the coming term, we can finally tackle that. I will propose up to $4 million of utility improvements for King Farm Farmstead as a seed money.
As I've mentioned to the thousands of people I've spoken with while canvassing, I'm running for city council for the same 3 reasons I moved here. 1, I do want to be an advocate so that our mayor and council is advocating with our county council and school board even better for our schools and our children. 2, I do want to make sure that our streets are safe to drive and walk along. 3, and most important at some level, is to improve housing affordability for people who are veterans like myself, young families, working professionals, and seniors. My name is David Miles. I thank you for your time and attention. A vote for me is a vote for a Rockville that works for everybody. Thank you.
I am Brigida Molliken, a naturalized citizen born in Germany, a 54-year Rockville resident with 40 years of working with Rockville on task force, boards, and commissions. I graduated from Richard Montgomery College, University of Maryland. My 3 sisters, my brother, and my daughter all attended Richard Montgomery High School. I know the facts about the school system. My daughter was raised in Rockville and participated in many of the city recreation programs available to young adults. I will bring my 36 years government experience, where I served as a budget officer for the Health and Human Services after 36 years. I have seen the city change over the last 54 years. I believe our city council can do a better job representing the residents, and I believe it is time to increase the number of city council members. I am an individual candidate. I ask for your vote, and I also wanted to tell you that the community here in King Farm is a great example of how development can provide housing needs for the county. Thank you.
My name is Donald Masters. Throughout this campaign, I have focused on the issues facing the city. I've spoken to a lot of people that have taught me a lot in the individual neighborhoods that they love. I continue to speak to what I want to do for you on the council and for all residents of the city. I will be your voice on the council, bringing a vision, strategic long-term planning, and sensible decision-making in place of short-term one-off decisions that don't resolve the underlying problems that we continue to face. Please vote for Masters and the talent of 3 other candidates that will make the hard decisions that we have to make. I'm hoping that you will provide me the opportunity to prove that I can be a voice for you in the next 4 years, and we can get it right. Thank you for your consideration.
As I have said, I'm running as an independent candidate, not part of any slate, not beholden to any special interests, not dependent on any incumbent to advise me. I know how this city works. For the last 10 years, I've volunteered my time working with city staff and mayor and council on planning, zoning, economic development, and other issues. In my role as a planning commissioner, I have earned the respect of those who have worked with me. I have listened fairly to both sides of every case. I have cast votes that impact the people of this city and that require careful listening and deliberation. I have reviewed and approved new development, including thousands of new housing units, and I have helped draft the master plan and vision for our city 20 years from now. Our master plan is still taking shape. It is my hope that once voted into law, it represents a vision of progress and prosperity for our town centers, quality of life for our residents, new ideas, new solutions, and development based on citizen input. If you vote for me, Charles Littlefield, I will not let you down.
Thank you, King Farm neighbors, for coming out tonight, and the King Farm Assembly for putting this together. Again, my name is Quan Lee, and I live near the King Farm farmstead. As many of you know, I've been in King Farm External Affairs Committee chair for the last 3 years. During this time, we worked together to voice our concerns about the self-storage development on Redland. Because of our unity of our community, we were able to pressure the developers to reconsider the project proposal. We also voiced our concerns about the CCT running through King Farm for fear of dividing our close-knit community as well as our pedestrian safety. Again, I believe our unity played a role in the state government's decision to not fund the project. In order to better serve our community, I joined the Rockville Financial Advisory Board, and in fact, I invited one of our King Farm Assembly rep to join me. With the King Farm Farmstead project down the pipeline, let's make sure that King Farm has a voice on Rockville City Council. Thank you.
All right, once again, I'm James Hedrick, and I'm running for Rockville City Council, in case anybody forgot. I am a career civil servant and a father of two. I think I've mentioned that a couple of times before. That's what really drove me to get into this race in the first place. I want to create a hometown for my two little girls that they can be proud of. I want it to be a place where they can live, where they can learn, where they can grow, and where they can eventually settle. The big issue, I think, for me, and I think for a lot of young families, is jobs in the city of Rockville and also housing affordability. Too many families like mine have 2-hour-plus long commutes to get to their job and then get back to their home. I want to spend more time with my family. I want people off the roads. I want there to be less congestion. And to do that, we need to bring jobs into Rockville. I have been literally across the country in my old job, all the way from Puerto Rico up to Alaska, helping communities and always on the side of the cities and the counties, using money to bring jobs, to bring things into their community to help them out and to get the benefits that they can from the federal money. So I want to bring that here to Rockville. I think I can do a good job with both my personal and professional background. Thanks a lot, and vote Hedrick.
Cynthia Cotty Griffiths, and I have a strong record of service. I've been in appointed positions in City Hall for over a decade on Human Services Advisory Commission, the Traffic and Transportation Commission. I've spoken and written about many and just about basically all the major issues in Rockville for the last decade as well. I've been a strong advocate against traffic and for making our streets safe. And as a Traffic and Transportation Commissioner, I have worked on those issues in King Farm and more recently even with the parking permit issue in King Farm. If you elect me, I promise that I will make sure that you are not charged for City of Rockville water because you don't use it. You're on WSSC and you shouldn't carry that burden. I advocate for the CCT going down Shady Grove Road. Rockville has been an excellent place for me to raise my sons, and I want it to remain an excellent place. I want them to have the jobs and the housing that they need to stay here, and I want to be able to retire here when I'm done with my nonprofit career. Nonprofits do fuel our economy as well as other businesses, and it's a very important sector. So vote for me to keep Rockville the city you love for the people you love.
Good evening, King Farm residents. My name is Richard Godfrey. I want to thank you for coming out tonight, and I would personally like to thank the King Farm residents for hosting this forum tonight. I'm asking you to leverage your vote by mail for Richard Godfrey. As a longtime resident and a certified public accountant practicing in the city of Rockville for over 29 years, I will bring my leadership, experience, and vision to the council. Also, I'm a proven community activist, and I'm well acquainted with the issues of our city. I'm not a newcomer to Rockville city politics. If elected, I intend to add value and quality of life to Rockville by 1, preserving our parks, especially Redgate Park. 2, even though the King Farm Farmstead will require millions of dollars in funding, I will advocate for financing this project just like we have with the swim center, up to $11.6 million in bonds. 3, create a sustainable plan to address future growth and increase traffic. My name is Richard Godfrey. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been an honor to be your council member for 6 years. If re-elected, I will continue to think independently in my decision-making. Preserving Rockville's character, embracing Rockville's future is our most urgent issue. We need economic development to reinvigorate town center and support affordable housing, but we cannot pursue these goals at the expense of our neighborhoods. Unrestrained development brings more school overcrowding and increased traffic congestion. Density alone is not the answer. Let's not become Crystal City. We must implement a Vision Zero pedestrian and bicycle safety action plan, enhance senior transportation services, celebrate our villages, provide tax credits to first-time home buyers, raise the ceiling for the senior tax credit, and create a multicultural welcome center. It's not about one person does, it's about our working collaboratively. There is no I in teamwork. It's working together and reach consensus. Please vote for me, Beryl Feinberg, as well as the Rockville Forward members. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Monique Ashton, and I think I bring a unique sense of skills and approach. I have both the business background and I have done a lot in this community in terms of being a community advocate. I not only talk about the schools and have schools in the school system, I've helped to increase capacity. I've helped to coordinate across the city, the county, and the state, and I will continue to do that. I've lived in East and West Rockville for 15 years. I have planned large community forums. I have supported small businesses. I have really sought to expand the capacity in our schools. I've also served in the Adequate Public Facilities Work Group and the Pedestrian Advocacy Committee. This is about selecting a leader who will listen to you, who will represent you, bring strategic thinking, consensus building, and also be someone who's going to take action. I know that there's been a lot of talk about the King Farm Farmstead. 2 task forces, we need to take action and get that property ready. I'll move Rockville forward by supporting smart growth, increasing economic opportunity, protecting our schools and services for all ages, and advocating for pedestrian and bicycle safety. Thank you.
A couple of times our mayor has said she needed to set the record straight. The record is straight and it's public information. There's a lot at stake here. The current mayor has voted no for affordable housing every time. She voted no to allow Fireside Park to refinance to keep 236 homes affordable and pay the city back $1.7 million. I voted yes. She voted no to the Fostering Community Trust Act, which says no matter who you are, if you are the victim, then you can go to our police. I voted yes. She's left a gap in boards and commissions. We have some back to 2015. I will make sure that these boards and commissions are filled. The record is clear. You need a mayor who doesn't abstain from their responsibilities. Please vote for me, Virginia Onley, for your next mayor of Rockville on November 4th. November 5th. Don't vote on the, well, yes, vote on the 4th. I don't know why I said that. Please vote for me, Virginia Onley. Thank you.
Thank you all very much for coming this evening, and to King Farm, thank you for hosting the forum. It's been great. My husband is fond of saying that I hate to run, but I love to serve, and that's true. I put the Rockville Forward Coalition together because I really felt we needed a coalition of the willing, people who came to meetings prepared with ideas, with a willingness to talk civilly and respectfully with each other as we shared different perspectives and different life experiences. That's who I had seen in these people that I put on Rockville Forward over the past many years. I've watched them in their individual capacities. They're all leaders and they're all thoughtful, respectful people.
The idea of the Education Commission actually came out of the APFO work group, which I put together to try to resolve and come to compromise on the council with the Twin Brook Corridor project. I think there are a lot of ideas out there that I just hope you'll go to the website, look at them, go on the Facebook, see, and I just want to give a shout out to the Nats. The city of Rockville announced today that we will be hosting a watch party Saturday evening on East Montgomery Avenue. All of you are welcome. Please come and celebrate the Nats.
All right, the candidates have now done their job. It's time for us to talk about our job. Please don't forget, return your postage paid ballots to the city by 8 p.m. on what day, Virginia? November 5th.
November 5th.
Thank you. We're going to do dirty tricks. You could do November 6th, right? You know. No, November 5th. Also, there's a drop box, a 24/7 drop box. You can drop off your completed ballot anytime at the election drop box located in the parking lot of City Hall. You can also, at the vote center, register and vote on Election Day at City Hall from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. But this is a first time for the mailing, so get it in early. If somebody recommended October 29th, October 30th. Once again, an applause for all of the hard work and great responses. Go Nats.